Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Sabah Shahid and I lead the partnerships team here at NICL. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to everyone joining us today. We're very excited for episode 2 of our Entrepreneurs in Conversation series. Today's episode is titled Empowering Equality, Paving the Path for Gender Equity in Pakistan's Tech Landscape. Our EIC series are a very, very valuable resource for startup founders wanting to understand what goes on in the minds of business leaders such as Saima, who's here joining us today. And these are people who've not only survived the trials and challenges that come with leading a business, but are inspiring people from the forefront. And this is particularly a great opportunity for those wanting to understand and observe what goes on in the minds of these leaders. So we're very pleased to have amongst us Ms. Saima Ali, founder and CEO of RevSoft Global, an IT sourcing company that specializes in talent acquisition and matching professionals to the most complex software challenges. Saima has over 25 years of professional experience, having worked at top US corporations like Fidelity Investments, MetLife, and Wells Fargo. Her academic qualifications are no less. She has a bachelor's degree in social science, business administration, and management from Harvard University, and additional qualifications in project management from the University of California, Berkeley, and organizational behavior studies also from Harvard. Saima is dedicated to enhancing Pakistan's IT sector with a special focus on addressing the industry's gender gap. And that's what today's topic is. We're going to focus in on the gender digital divide and what we can do to help female entrepreneurs overcome the challenges and bottlenecks to entering and surviving the IT industry. So thank you, Saima, for taking time out to visit NIC and agreeing to be part of our EIC session. Just to begin with, can we get a bit of a background of how you got into the deep tech industry, what inspired you to start RevSoft Global, and just a general background on the company itself and how you founded it?
Absolutely. So I'm originally from Lahore, but I went to US to progress my studies at a very young age. And life actually started pretty early. I got married at a very young age, had 2 of my daughters born after I got married, and in between that I started my professional career. Started from odd jobs, naturally was just entering into the industry, worked my way up to a project manager and a business analyst position with Fidelity Investments. Prior to that, I had been in HR, but more likely in IT recruiting. So because IT was always a flavor in my professional life, project management was the natural next step. Alhamdulillah, I've excelled in every position quite progressively. And when I resigned from Wells Fargo, which was very recent, by the way, I was the vice president of a digitization organization. So everything we did was around digitizing the customer experience and customer centricity and, large initiatives like wellsfargo.com, including all the different channels and such. My education started in between me being a mother of 2 daughters and working full time. So I've always had a lot on my plate. And it's, I'm kind of accustomed to it at this point. And I remember when I submitted my very first paper for my very first class at Harvard. It was December 17th when I submitted my paper, and December 26th, my son was born.
Oh.
So I just remember that because, you know, he was born right around the same time. I will tell you, Saba, that RevSoft is an idea that is something that I came up with to give back to my own roots. I have progressed in my education and my career, alhamdulillah, like really well. But you come to a point in your life when, you know, 2 of my kids are grown, one of my son is 9, and you start to question the purpose of your life. And when I did that, I realized that in the past few years when I've been visiting Pakistan and even noticing IT sector around the globe, I feel like we don't have enough women in technology. And there's a lot of people who talk about that, but I wanted to humanize the experience and take on that initiative more seriously. Because 25 years of being a client, being part of large organizations really positioned me well to understand the challenges of the client. And I can tell you, in all my program and project management and leadership roles, it's the talent that speaks the most. Mm-hmm. And not the gender or the ethnicity or the movies you like or the foods mm-hmm. you like. Your talent speaks for itself. So that is really what gave me the idea to start RevSoft. And the reason, so RevSoft is a global organization, and I just want to make that clear because, but starting from a country, emerging country like Pakistan, the reason for that is because there's so much opportunity that lies in Pakistan as far as women, because I feel like it's a market that globally hasn't really been tapped into because we have industry leading countries such as Malaysia, Bangladesh, and India. Mm-hmm. And what world doesn't realize is, maybe we all need to do a better job to, making that message clear collectively, is that Pakistan is, it's an amazing place. It's an amazing culture. It's an amazing, the team that I have about 21 people on my team at RevSoft already. It blows my mind to see the talent that my team brings to the table. Mm-hmm. It's something that is very refreshing for a leader to see, coming from both men and women within my organization already as a startup. And that's the footprint that I would like to continue to create to help recognize Pakistani talent as well as opportunities where we can encourage more and more women around the globe to come train with us, come be employed with us, and really focus on the global clientele that we have, regardless of the borders, of the languages and the cultures, because to be truly innovative, you really do have to be diverse, not just in your documentation, but in your daily practices as well.
No, absolutely, and I think that's such a rich and experience you've had, and that's great insight for us. But I'm wondering, So we often hear of the glass ceiling being very high for women in the corporate sector, and you mentioned how you were able to climb that corporate ladder. But I'm wondering whether the glass ceiling is higher for Pakistani women, and what can they do to really get their foot through the door in the tech sector?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is basically understanding women and their strength and not handing it over to the society or the obstacles or the challenges that we have in this society. I think women and girls, I'm a mother of a 24 and a 21-year-old daughter, and I can tell you that you have to be fierceless, you know. You have to be a risk taker. You have to be willing to give your 100% to what your passion is. If your passion is to learn new skill, then give it your 200%. Every time in my career I have worked hard to excel, it's not because I wanted to make more money or I wanted to, stand out. Those things are all by default. But the passion that you have is truly, what is my purpose? What do I want to do in life? And what boundaries do I want to, am I willing to cross to get there? Mm-hmm. Of course, we have parents' respect and we have social norms in Pakistan and, the cultural aspect. And obviously, RevSoft is not encouraging anyone to break any of those, but we're the women empowerment that RevSoft is committed to providing women in Pakistan and around the globe is from their own ability to learn something. The biggest contribution that RevSoft plays in that is 100% of our jobs are remote. Mm-hmm. So you can be at any part of the world and come join our workforce. The trainings and other techniques that we have to equip you to be successful in your role are also remote, 100% remote. Internet, is available, fortunately, in any part of Pakistan or any part of the world today. And that's the simple model that we are leveraging is internet-based learning, internet-based working, so that women can abide by their cultural norms, mm-hmm. and they don't have to step outside the house if they don't want to, or they don't have to. We also provide flexibility to women because as a single mother of 3 children, myself, working 25 years out in the industry, I can tell you the best times that I have contributed to my work is when I was given that flexibility. So, and I think a lot of people would, they don't realize in the corporate who fail to understand the critical need of flexibility and remote, opportunities for women is that if you give a woman something that she critically needs, in return, she's going to give you her loyalty, she's going to give you her best work, and she's going to give you her integrity and the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think it's very important to realize that. But you mentioned cultural barriers as a barrier to women in tech, and that's significantly spoken about in the literature. We recently published co-published a research on the relationship between technology and female entrepreneurs, and cultural barriers came out as a major reason why we don't see more women in tech. But it's also access to the internet. I mean, you mentioned it's widely available, but I'm just going to share a very quick statistic. I think only 20% of Pakistani women use mobile internet, and only 52% of the female population possesses a cell phone. So in addition to the actual infrastructure, there are also issues with respect to IT skills, right? If you're not going to have asset ownership, for instance, to a cell phone, because we're in a patriarchal society, your brother or your father probably, has access over your cell phone or the laptop. So how do we access that pool of talent where there's untapped potential, like you mentioned, and these are women who are significantly disadvantaged just because they don't have access to the infrastructure, to the skills.
Right. So I think that there are always going to be barriers, no matter what the circumstances are. And I think, so very respectfully, I completely understand the home dynamics from a cultural perspective. Because remember, I come from one of those homes. I was the first woman in the family to graduate college and to enter the workforce. My daughter became the second girl to graduate college. So definitely understand the limitations, but I think it's a level of education that we need to do with Pakistani men as well as women, is you have to understand the intent. When we're encouraging women to or girls to study and educate themselves, and we place them with our global clients, it's not to do anything haram or it's not to do anything illegal. It's to basically help themselves become financially independent and contribute themselves to a society so that they can lift up their head and walk with more dignity. A lot of women choose not to work, and they prefer to be home, and they prefer to be, caretakers, and that's completely their choice. But the women who want to excel, who have a passion to go out and work and contribute to the society and economics, most importantly, they should be given that choice. And I think, as far as RevSoft is concerned, obviously we can't solve world problems, and barriers are going to be barriers. However, how RevSoft plans to mitigate that is we also offer mental and emotional support to the girls that choose to come and train with us and work with us. Our employee benefits include emotional supporting counselor. If you are taking trainings and we have tutoring center that will help you, as well as, more on the training side of things. And we don't put you on the floor. When we go out and talk to our clients, we bring that awareness to our global clients that you are going to be working with women from a society where they have different norms than the Western world. So that our clients are mindful of that approach and that understanding, and they are, supportive and encouraging. Through my 25 years, I've participated in so many different programs. I have mentored high school children, girls who love to code, to women who have no idea about technology. And I think with the right support and with the right guidance, we can accomplish a lot. And inshallah, I'm really looking forward to seeing the results of that.
I think I love that holistic approach that your company practices, because we all often think of the corporate sector as this very hardcore area, cutthroat, but it's amazing that you're bringing those resources. You mentioned a while ago that we're in competition with more traditional tech countries like Malaysia or India. Where would you place the Pakistani female IT resource in comparison to these South Asian countries?
No less, to be honest with you, because the talent that I've seen witnesses that these girls and these IT professionals in Pakistan are no less. In a lot of ways, I think we have a really healthy competition within the tech sector in Pakistan. Freelancing is, statistically shows a lot of great numbers. And the beauty of it is that the cost of living is very low in Pakistan, so that gives RevSoft an ability to place talented Pakistanis across the globe for very competitive prices. But not only that, we also meet our clients' needs by making our resources, having their 24-hour shift availability. So things like time zones don't matter. We give them, equipment and tools and trainings to each RevSoft employee to be able to communicate confidently with the client and understand them, not only from the requirement perspective, but also from the cultural perspective, so that there's that human connection around the globe as we're trending into the globalization.
You mentioned that Pakistani IT professionals were, as competitive as their international contemporaries. I'm wondering that whether the lower price builds a narrative around the Pakistani tech sector where we're seen as sort of the low-cost labor exporters of the world. Do you feel that's in our competitive advantage, or should we really change the narrative and really, because I know your company is contributing towards that, where we're showcasing ourselves as a tech hub. So it is kind of a trade-off where the competitive prices help, but then I also feel that builds a narrative where we're really being seen as a low-cost sort of laborer.
I tend to disagree with that statement, Sabah, because countries like India, you can get a resource for $10 an hour. But I think where we really draw the line is the contribution that each resource brings to the table and the value that they add to the organization, that, to our organization as well as our clients. And quite honestly, IT is the type of work that is deliverable based. So delivery speaks for itself. And as far as changing the narrative, I'm not sure if I have an opinion on that, because we have to come up with the pricing model, but when you think of IT and you think of solutions, cost is not always the deciding factor. It's a lot of different factors, such as the availability of the resources, how well do they understand the requirements, or how creative are they in creating products and solutions for our customers, how much do they really understand the customer centricity and the feasibility of so any client that we have at RevSoft, they ultimately also have clients or consumers of their products. So it's a chain of customer centricity that we need to understand. And like my experience, most of my experience is in financial technology. And, I have built solutions for advisors to brokers to, retail customers of banking. So when you have such a vast pace of people that you're basically creating solutions for. It's not always easy to say that it's just
cost,
changing the narrative will basically address it.
Okay. We spoke a little bit about our South Asian sort of competition. Is there a parallel, because you've worked in the US as well.
Yeah.
What parallels do you see between the Pakistani tech industry and the American one? Is there a comparison, or is there enough integration? How would you describe that space?
Help me understand your question a little bit
So
better.
I'm trying to understand, given you're working on the Pakistani market with RevSoft, right? Your IT consultants or professionals are Pakistani,
Right.
and we're trying to build this integration with the international global economy. So how well are we doing that? Are there parallels, or is there a very steep learning curve for our IT professionals? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it has to do with the number of years of experience each person brings. Someone who has just entered the market, my personal observation is there's a lot of youth talent in Pakistan. And I think it's because of the population statistics, which are, I think, the highest, if I recall correctly, between 21 and 32, if I'm right.
So I think around 65% under the age of 35.
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm not wrong. Yeah.
So it's a wave, it's a generation. And that's another reason, RevSoft doesn't define your abilities to contribute based on your age. However, the number of years of experience that you have, I think where emerging talent contributes the best to make up for the number of years is their fresh ideas and their creativity and their approach, because this is the generation that has grown up with a certain level of technology that a lot of us didn't. So their perspective and their approach to a lot of solutions is very unique and different than, say, you and I. So I think that's it's a really positive thing because with the young talent you have an opportunity to mold them and to train them right and to train them with the trends that are going in the industry within technology. What are the emerging technologies? What are the resources that are out there? What are the tech trends that are going around the world? So I think that alone contributes quite a bit.
Okay. My next question is coming from, let's say, a startup founder's perspective.
Okay.
And this is, so we noticed on your website, we were reading through it yesterday, we were very, very impressed.
Thank you.
And there are sort of a multitude of services and products you offer. So we're wondering, from a starter's perspective, should one really focus on perfecting a core service, or should you experiment right from the get-go? What stage should a startup start looking at diversifying their products, their services?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it really depends on your risk tolerance and what your business model overall is. If your business model is to test the market and do a pilot, and you only want to do products, you may have a unique market that you want to approach and a business model, whereas RevSoft is taking on quite a bit. RevSoft is taking on a variety of services because our goal is not only to create one-on-one solutions, but basically our ultimate goal is to take Pakistan and put it on the global map as an IT emerging market. So when you have goals that high, you have to have a broad services menu for your clients to choose from, and we serve people around the globe. So tech trends could be different from one country to another or one continent to another. The tech trends that are now emerging, and any number of large to small organizations are catching on with their technology, and it's this race that we have to be the fastest and the cheapest and the easiest. So how do you get to that innovation? You keep an open mind. You keep, talent encouraged. And one of the things that RevSoft actually is bringing is our innovation lab. So in our innovation lab, we're going to encourage our trainees as well as our employees at RevSoft to just have volunteer time and go code and hackathons and just, create new things, and let's look at it and see how that solves our customers' problems. So these are the kinds of things that, we're looking into, and I hope that answered the question.
No, it does. I think that's great advice, keeping an open mind, keeping up with trends, understanding your scope. And then reacting to that.
Right.
And just building on that, I think we're moving towards the end of our conversation. I want to end with one last question, and that's your advice for a startup founder. What according to you, for instance, are certain practices or traits that are essential to be a successful business founder? Or maybe you could describe 3 or 4 traits that for you make a resilient business founder.
So I think the most important thing is to have a vision. You absolutely need to have a clear vision, because if you as a founder are clueless, your team and people who we will be working with it'll make it very challenging. Second trait is I think patience. Patience with the team, patience with the process, in creating the process, implementing the process, as well as strategy. Strategy is something that is my core strength. It is the reason why I chose to start RevSoft, and without strategy, what is strategy? It's basically just planning ahead, So when you want to start something, I came up with the idea of RevSoft in February, but I didn't launch until July 1st. The reason for that is because I wanted to have my strategy solidified and proven from the industry experts and from my colleagues and from my own team. And at the same time, I started creating the culture back in February for RevSoft, because I understand the importance of, I know my vision is to go really, really far with this. So how will I do that? How will I get there? If I start creating that culture from my direct reports. My direct reports can speak to the culture that RevSoft has. I think some of it you can understand from looking at our website as well. And carry that culture through to their direct reports, and then their direct reports and onwards. So that's what I would advise to the new founders.
I think that's great advice. I think it was very, very insightful and very inspiring.
Thank you so
I personally, I think I was taking a lot of mental notes while you were speaking. So thank you. So I'd like the audience to join me in a round of applause, thanking Saima for her time.